2, 1. Welcome to the Second Half Podcast. We've got another episode, and this one I am extremely excited. For those who have paid attention and been able to tap into some of the previous episodes, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Be sure to check us out on social media at the Second Half Podcast. So with this one, you come across people that you've met at certain times in your career, in your journey, and this has honestly been one that's just stuck, always been around, and every time we get together, we just have some dope conversation. It don't matter if we talking basketball, we could talk West versus Chicago or whatever, we could just talk about life, and that's always a great conversation. So without further ado, I got my man Samir Hernandez on the podcast. Welcome to the show, my man.
Man, thank you for having me, man. I'm super excited. Seeing what you're doing, what you're building. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. So, well, let's get it started. I don't want to tell too much of the story, but where did the journey begin for you?
Man, where it began was South Central Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? That's really where it began, man. Those were the streets that raised me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a LA kid through and through.
Nice.
And then I began to play basketball. You know what I'm saying? The basketball became like the device that really kind of carried me through even where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I started hooping, played a little bit of basketball. A little high level high school basketball. Played some college.
Yeah.
And so, after that, it was like, all right, well, I wasn't fortunate enough to be able to be paid to play. So I had to make a real decision. You know what I'm saying? So after my second year of hooping in college, I say, hey, I could either, chase these scholarships and chase this opportunity, or I can really go head first into work and really developing my professional life. And so I took a job at Wells Fargo Bank.
Oh, wow.
I was, Took a job as a teller at Wells Fargo, and it was my first job. I did not know how to write a check. I did not, back then, I'm pretty sure they probably still do. They use like a 10 key, you know what I'm saying? I was never good on typing. So I was like, I don't know how to use a 10 key. I don't know if they're going to hire me. And actually, believe it or not, I got actually declined for my first interview, and then somebody made a call, and I actually was able to make it through. So, so then I worked there. Yeah, crazy, right? Crazy how the world works. And so ended up working at Wells Fargo for 8 years, and so I kind of matriculated through community banking, and ended up becoming a VP in community banking. And then an opportunity presented itself to be able to make a jump over to Jordan Brand.
Okay. Awesome. Before we get into down the road, because I definitely want to get to that. Yeah. I kind of want to go a little bit back to you mentioned South Central LA, right, and kind of the same kind of optics that kind of Chicago has in some stages. Where I'm at, and that's always a interesting development and kind of process you have to grow up through. Like, what were some of those things that you had to kind of maneuver through to kind of keep you going in that mind space, knowing you had a goal of playing basketball?
It was crazy, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially coming up, in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? Where the streets were extremely hot, you know what I mean? And it was a constant decision of, stay focused on the goal at hand, or, make the wrong decision and go, hang out with somebody else to do something different. You know what I'm saying? And I was, I was blessed enough to be able to have, my folks who kept me focused, and to also be able to have strong community around me that hooped, and some of the guys still hoop to this day. Where, we had to make a decision. Back in LA, I grew up in the colors era, you know what I'm saying? And the places where you went and the people who you hung out with, truly made a difference. And I had many friends that, literally on my block that died through gun violence. Like, when I say many, like over 5 people just on my block that died, they got shot, you know what I'm saying, before the age of 16. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it wasn't something that was, it wasn't something that was just, rap songs and all that stuff. But it was a very, very it's a very, very real thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, it was just like, I know I just had to focus on this piece. I had to have my goal in mind, which was, playing in the NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although that didn't happen, but that was what kept me focused and what kept my mind away from, being on the streets to just hanging out. Cause I'm always busy, man. I'm hooping, working out, you know what I'm saying, in the gym, doing all those fun things. And I think that those choices and, the favor, kept me on the path to where I can get to where I'm at now.
Yeah, no, that's so real. I think you got realities, in the streets, and no matter what area you grew up in, we know that there are things that are going to happen, and unfortunately, sometimes lives are lost. But I think for each individual person, with us being able to just focus and set what that goal is extremely important for as we go along in our journey in general. Like, you're going to use that same kind of focus to map out these points, or I got this goal in mind, and then you take that and you hit that goal, and now you go set your next goal, and so forth, so on. And that kind of keeps you a bit out of the way. And like you said, growing up in those kind of colors era that we grew up in, it's like, when people saw you, kind of the good thing about that was, like, the people saw you on this path, they knew to kind of, hey, let Samir go through. He's good because he's trying to hit this, and he's going, quote unquote, get us out the hood. You know what I mean, type thing. But that's something there. One thing you definitely mentioned too, man, I think this is extremely important to call out too, is you said you had a really good circle around you. You had, a solid family support system. Did you have mentors also that were included in that, or were, like, your mom, dad, sister, brother, whatever, were they the ones that kind of helped steer you through?
Oh, for sure, man. It's so many people that have been, like, instrumental in my life to be able to get to me, get me to the place where I'm at now, right? So, starting as young as 8th grade, like, I didn't even consider them mentors. They was just, at that point, they was just coaches.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't understand that what that really meant. But, whether it was guys or stamps, you know what I'm saying, who coached me kind of coming up and all that fun stuff. Or it was, or it was like my brothers, you know what I'm saying? Like, Pooh, you know what I mean? Pooh, Jeter, or Tyson, or Darius Sanders, you know what I'm saying? Or Keith Everett. Like, these were the dudes who was on that same journey with me to be able to say, yo, we staying focused on the goal at hand. I mean, and something that's bigger than us, and really, I think one of the big things, especially, depending on where you come from, like, you only know what you see.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, if you don't see success, or if you don't see anything outside the hood, you know what I mean? How do you know what's possible?
Yep.
And so being with folks like that, and, being with people who are, always kind of telling you what's possible and telling you what the goal is at hand, and having brothers there to be able to be on that journey with you.
Yep.
Like, that was everything. You know what I'm saying? And once again, like, give a lot of credit to my parents as well, because, they, we would go on road trips, you know what I'm saying, and see different things.
Yep.
I had neighbors that had never been to the beach. You know what I mean? And this is LA. You know what I mean?
It's
LA,
right,
the
it's
beach
right down the block.
Yeah. It's 20 minutes away in traffic. You know what I mean? But they were never able to see what's possible. And so being that, I had those mentors, and I had those brothers that was along the ride with me, like, I was able to see what was possible. And because of that, like, it was like, okay, it's more to this.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's more to this life thing than surviving. You know what I mean? Let's get to a place of thriving. So, those folks were huge.
I love that. Huge. I love that, man. It's like having your boys right there with you along the journey. That just kind of, you got this competitive nature on the court, but then also, like, in life, you like, hey, y'all gonna keep each other on the path y'all need to get to. Hey, don't mess this up, because we right here with you, trying to all get there to where we trying to get to.
Exactly.
So, which I love, man. There's something about that. I definitely want to tap into that a little bit later on in the conversation. But you said you threw some names out there. Obviously, y'all all grew up together hooping. What did you play in the AAU circuit when it was, first birthing a little bit more? Like, what was that experience for you out west?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, for sure. I came up in, like, the pre-EYBL era. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same.
So it was, it wasn't the same, but it was so much more about hoop. You know what I'm saying? So much more about competition. Like I remember the first time, and back when we were coming up, it sounded like, oh, dude, like the only way that you would get to know people, like the internet wasn't popping like that. Obviously, it wasn't on social media.
Yeah.
So you would literally look through the USA basketball top 25 rankings, right?
Yep.
And I remember always seeing like St. Vincent, St. Mary's, you know what I'm saying? And they would have this little like blip, you know what I'm saying? Like two sentences under like whoever's in the top 25. Yep. And they'll be like, LeBron James, freshman LeBron James leading, da 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 da. I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? So that's how you got to know people. Yep. And then you would see them at tournaments. I remember seeing at a pump and run tournament, Oakland Soldiers were playing. And I was talking to a coach. I'm like, okay, who's on these teams? It was like Leon Poe. He's like, yeah, and that's that kid LeBron James from Ohio. I was like, oh, that's LeBron James. And then I remember he came down. I think he's probably going in sophomore year. And he did something, and it was literally the best pass at that point that I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess he can play. I guess
his name on the list for a reason, right?
Yeah. He's worked that one sentence. But back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Like I played for local. I was a TPI kid. Okay. And then kind of merged into like this SCA world, which is what LA is known for from that era. And then, like a lot of like local teams, you know what I'm saying, play with ICANN and, different folks and kind of just got in and got bumped, you know what I'm saying? So kind of, playing in that, traveling camps and things of that nature. Like, back then it was about the hoop. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Summertime came, it was about the hoop. Also, which was cool too, was my high school was also kind of like a travel team. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we would,
almost like a prep school of what it is now, what they doing, but y'all was
kind of exactly. So we would go and play in all the local tournaments that was going on. We had a bunch of local tournaments in LA, and so we would just go and run, go run the circuit, and we wouldn't lose. You know what I mean? So for us, but AAU basketball was like this connective tissue for the city. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a place where all these hoopers from LA, from Long Beach, from the IE, which nobody really knew about the IE at that point.
They on now.
Oh yeah, they on now. They on. But that's like, where we would all kind of come and connect. You know what I'm saying? At these little camps and like that was also a piece that like, you was allowed to be able to move and connect and all that fun stuff. And that was also a very fun time in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I always talk about that, man. Just that era of basketball when it was pure. It wasn't about the social media following, and it was literally you got to go online, see where your name was, and say, okay, I need to be at that camp, and if this person is there, I got to go at them. Yeah, that's all it was about. With no conversation beyond that. It was like that's who it is. I'm at you.
Yo, you see him, and you gotta like you gotta line them up. Like, okay,
oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. I remember one time I went to this. They still have it. It's this USA basketball camp, and where's it at? It's in
Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs. Yeah. I remember it was like a last minute invite, and my man Keon was like, "Yo, you want to go? We need some more players for the West." I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And so in LA, this is before like if you're 6'7", 6'8", coming up, we coming up, like for the most part, you kind of gonna be in the post. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It wasn't like how it is now. Like you're working to be able to extend and all that fun stuff. And then you had some 6'7", 6'8" wings. It wasn't a lot. And I remember I was like, all right, I didn't know who these dudes were. I kind of like knew some of their names. And I remember I saw them. I was matching up. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, I see this dude, Sean May. I've heard of you. Like, all right, you 6'9", you about 260. Like, nah, I don't want that. So I saw this other dude. He was about like 6'8". I was like, okay, I can guard you. All right, let me match up with this dude. And then they take the ball out. I mean, jump ball with the first play down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we get a bucket. They take the ball out. And so my man is now taking the ball off the court. Now I play defense. I'm like, hello, what's going on? Right. This dude must be the coach. You know what I'm saying? And
you
then
this dude 6'8", 6'9", you supposed to be like, what are you handling the ball for?
Exactly. And he comes up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to play off of him. You know what I'm saying? I'll meet him at the three-point line. This dude takes 2 steps over half court, pulls up, none but net. I'm like, shit. Like, what's this dude's name again? Carmelo?
Wow. Right.
switch. I ain't signed up for these problems today. So you know
That
what I'm
is
saying?
not
But
what
like
you want in life.
that was not what I wanted, bro. That was not what I wanted. So I ended up, wrestling with Sean Bay. That was a good alternative
Yeah,
for that game. You know
you
what I'm
should have stuck with your first choice.
saying?
No,
Exactly.
it was such a great era, man. Watching Melo do his thing right now, and the journey he's in. He had a dope documentary I was watching on a while back, but then even looking at Sean May and his career, him playing at UNC, now he's coaching, which is awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So obviously you played at all these different tournaments. You played against some of the best. Like, when did you realize you're like, all right, I got some game. I can play. Like, was it before the USA, Carmelo,
Yeah.
or was it?
You know what it was? It was when my sophomore year, you play AAU kind of growing up, and so you always know that you can hang, because you kind of play when you're 14, 13, you play against the best with the best, things of that nature. And so, your expectation, your trajectory is to be, one of the top players in the area, if not like the country. You know what I'm saying? Like, the country is always the goal at that point. But I think when I realized that I could hoop and I could hang, I should say. I wasn't like a phenomenal player, you know what I'm saying? I was a great team player. It was probably, it had to be like probably sophomore to junior. So my freshman year I went to a private school. My sophomore year I went to a school called Dominguez, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, I wrote the bench. You know what I'm saying? We had a phenomenal team. We were number one team in the country. So I cheered my heart out that whole year. But it probably wasn't. And so that was actually more of like a kind of reality check. Like, all right, this is high level Division I. Like, this is the best players in the country. You know what I'm saying? But I think probably, going from that sophomore to my junior year, when like things kind of just started to come together and like confidence came, and I was like, okay, that's when I realized that, all right, I can play at this level.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I could find my role in this level, as long as I just continue to develop that skill set. You know what I mean? I remember there was like this game. It was like a big moment. And the coach was like, "Yo, you're a dime now." It was like a big thing. I was like, "Oh, I belong." You know what I'm saying? And that was like, it kind of gave you like that extra punch of confidence.
Yeah.
But it probably had to be really that sophomore to junior year, man. That summer when literally, you lining up and you got to say, hey, either you coming to play or you coming to sit on the bench, and driving to Compton every day. That it really wasn't no point in me driving there and sitting on the bench. Like, I was there to win. I was there to get better.
Right.
And, thankful for my bros, you know what I'm saying, that was able to just to hoop and put it in and, do the work we needed to do to be able to excel. And so that was it. Junior year was a good year too.
Love it, man. So, obviously you were transitioning from high school into where you are. Like, what was the recruiting process, I think, for you that took you to that next level, right? High school was done. You played with all the best players. What was that for you that allowed for you to hit that next level and a step towards your first goal?
Yeah, you want to know that my recruiting journey was very interesting, right? Like at however old I am now, you know what I'm saying? It's very interesting to now tell the story from I can tell it real. Like, you can go fish stuff. Dudes always get better. Like, the older you get,
the older you get,
yeah. The older you get, you get better. And the older I get, I'm like, I wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But either way, so like coming out of Dominguez, like it was cool because I being able to play at such a high level with such great players, that elevates everyone's game, everyone's, visibility and things of that nature.
Yep.
For, unforeseen circumstances, our team ended up breaking apart. So I was like, yo, I went to go play with my homeboy, Pooh. And so, everybody kind of went their separate ways. I ended up going to play with Pooh. One of my homeboys stayed. And so, it was then actually going from Dominguez to having a lot of schools looking at you to now going out on your own. Like, it was like, the exposure, the visibility and all that stuff kind of like dropped off,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't scouts at every single practice. It wasn't, So it wasn't coaches at every single game. It wasn't,
I
NBA
remember that
agents at
era.
practice. You
Yeah,
know
I
what I
remember that
mean?
era. It was
Yeah,
like Dominguez and Thornwood High School, the only two high schools
yeah,
that had NBA scouts at. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I remember that game. I remember that game. Like, I remember Eddie Curry was literally the biggest human I'd ever seen at that point in my life.
try
I was like,
Gardner.
this is a big. Oh my god, man. What? Either way, that was a big human. That was a big game too.
Yeah.
But either way, just from so my what is it called? My recruiting went like off the wall, and that was actually a point at which I considered and strongly considered to I was like, I don't want to play basketball anymore. It just wasn't for the first time. It wasn't like a great experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that it was a mix of like, expectations meets reality meets like not the right fit. You know what I'm saying? And so, as an 18-year-old, I was like, yo, it's time I hang them up. I've given it all I got.
You ran into some adversity. You were already like, man, cut the cord.
Like, I just think I don't want to do this anymore. And so I actually ended up, like, I didn't want to go to JUCO. Like, I remember I passed my SAT. These are such like high school things, right?
Yeah.
I passed my SAT and I was like, all right, let me run the gamut. Do I want to go prep school? Do I want to go JUCO, or do I want to go literally to the last team that recruited me, which is the NAIA school that I've never heard of?
Yep.
And so, for me, I was like, man, I don't want to go to JUCO. I passed my SAT. I don't, that wasn't at that point in time, wasn't looked upon like as a favorable option, especially if you had grades. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so for me, I was like, yo, let me just. And I didn't want to go to prep. I just didn't want to. And so for me, I just ended up going to an NAIA school. And I literally went from being on the best basketball team to ever come out of California, and I still stand by that, to literally probably the worst basketball team ever assembled.
Yeah.
Ever. But I mean, here's the thing, like, God has a plan, man.
Right.
That was one of the largest, most pivotal moves in my life.
Yeah.
What would be considered like a loss, at the time, because I didn't really want to go.
Yeah.
And the team was terrible. It ended up, putting me on a trajectory, the professional trajectory that I ended up going on, because I moved to where that school was. I ended up staying, and we like kind of even my faith-based journey. Like, that all began because I played basketball at this school for 1 year, and the relationships that I made there. And so, although I looked at it as a loss at the time,
Yep.
It ended up being one of the biggest blessings, because it was such a turning point on my journey, that I was then, allowed to really start to invest in other aspects of my life.
Yep.
Like, it was God's plan for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that, because I think everyone's journey is different. Everyone, no matter how much we want to go to the NBA, the NFL, the WNBA, whatever, not all the time does it allow that. Like, we have kind of very similar stories outside of the team that we chose, but I ended up going to an NAIA school. A lot of schools overlooked and passed up on me because they were like, "Oh, you're undersized, bro. I'm 6'5". What you talking about? I'm undersized. Like, I'm still banging with. Like, I just got done this year banging with Eddie Curry. What you talking about? I'm strong enough to, you know what I'm saying? So, but like you said, there's a different path and there's a different journey that God has you on. And I truly believe that. And I think that when you kind of humble yourself a little bit and say, you know what, this is okay. It's all right. It's not the end of the world. Like, I'm still playing the game that I love, and I'm still being able to do what, I'm expected to do out here. So I love it, man. So obviously you go play at this NAIA school. It wasn't the best situation for you. What was your mental, what was your mental state? Like, like, you hit adversity, and not only from during a pivotal point in your upbringing, but you hit a little adversity, and you were literally willing to, like, man, forget all of it. Like, I'm done. So what was your mental health kind of at,
it was, from a basketball perspective, I was very disengaged, but I love to compete. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming from where I come from, like, you play to win. If you're not winning, then, it's not necessarily fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that was something that had been instilled in me from my time at my high school and playing my AAU programs and things of that nature. Like, nah, you play to win, or just don't play at all. And I still, I literally still have that DNA. Like, if I'm not gonna win, I'm not going to play. You know what I'm saying? Or if I'm going to play, I'm going to play to win and, give all I got. And that necessarily, that wasn't what that was. So from a basketball perspective, I think two things, right? I think that coming from a kid from South Central, you know what I'm saying? Although I had some exposure, it was kind of in and out. I had a couple teammates who weren't black. You know what I'm saying? I went to a couple of schools who had kids who weren't black, but I really didn't understand cultural differences,
yep.
Mainly between, black folks and white folks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I remember driving around where I went to school at, and I was like, man, they got their windows open. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, they don't have bars on their windows. I could see in your house. I'm like, yo, these people are crazy. Yeah. I remember thinking that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, what's wrong with these people? Like, they don't know that somebody gonna break in their house.
That culture shock.
Like,
yep.
You already know. And then also when it was like, yo, coming in as a young 18-year-old, you have a way on court and then in your community of how you deal with with issues. You know what I'm saying? So, it's nothing to go, and yell at someone. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing to go and be able to express your frustration in a way that's like, aggressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nothing to see somebody, fight because they don't agree. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I came from a school where there was literally biannual or whatever you say, every semester there were very real black and Mexican riots where they had to stop school for 2-3 days for all the Mexican kids in the back of the school, for all the black kids in the front of the school, and that was class.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because there was people just because it was
the tension
insane.
was there. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So imagine going from that to then, going to predominantly white areas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That you literally become like, it's like ESL. You know what I'm saying? It's like English as a second language.
Yep.
It becomes a second language that you have to learn, that you have to pick up, that you have to learn how to like deal with. And I actually struggled with that, man, for shit. Excuse my language, but I had to struggle with that, man, probably up until, early 30s. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like a very big struggle for me because, you have the competitive, athlete mindset. And then you also kind of have that, I ain't no punk type of mentality that just kind of sticks with you. You know what I mean? That ego driven, you know what I mean? And like, for me, that was like such a difficult thing for me to be able to navigate because it caused for me to be able to kind of like check my ego. You know what I'm saying? And learn how to deal with things in a much different manner. You know what I mean? And learn how to control my emotions and learn how to control my responses and being able to see, the large picture outside of, more than like, yo, you ain't gonna disrespect me. You know what I'm saying? But needless to say, so like that transition and kind of coming back to your question, was a little bit challenging when you talk about kind of mental health and things of that nature. I think the one thing that helped, and even when we talk about, mentors was be able to, like, that's when I actually started, attending church, you know what I'm saying? And my faith walk, I kind of grew up in the church, but my faith walk, it grew, you know what I'm saying? My relationship with God grew.
Yep.
And then my circles changed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it became, it became a lot about, changing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, it became more about kind of focusing on my walk with God and, having people and especially black men that weren't all basketball really pouring into me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember when I went for my interview with Wells Fargo, it was two black men, Vincent and Rick, who showed me how to write a resume. You know what I'm saying? It was people that walked me through that interview process and what it looks like and how to interview.
Yep.
It was those folks that told me how to interact and it really showed me what, healthy black successful relationships look like. And so that kind of, for me, helped to refocus me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And helped to bring me to a place where, I can succeed in, I can experience, succeed and excel in the real world, you know what I mean, outside of basketball.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I kind of started to shift to say, I had to make real long-term decisions. Sorry I'm talking so much about between like, sports and life and what are the decisions that I need to make in order to be able to grow and, accomplish something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, you don't apologize for talking too much, because this is the real conversation that we got to unlock, as humans and as people, and understand that it's okay to refocus. It's okay to lean into someone. And also on the other side of the coin, it's okay to pour into somebody. Like you said, you had two people who you built a relationship with that were willing to take a chance on you to walk you through the process, right? A lot of people don't understand the first thing about what a resume is because of their cultural differences, the educational background, also just kind of the shell shock of like, oh, I'm done playing this sport, so now I got to work and I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So
you don't know nothing.
You don't know anything.
You don't know nothing, dude. They do athletes such a huge disservice. You know what I'm saying? Like the amount of my friends who did hoop and who were top players and things like that, and who literally, whether they played basketball professionally or just played throughout college or whatnot, but like they didn't know what to do with their life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't know what taxes were. You know what I mean? They don't know what a resume is. They're like, they're not prepared for anything beyond that dribbling of a basketball.
Yep.
And I think that I have very strong thoughts about that. But if it wasn't for me, like starting then I probably wouldn't be, on the path that I'm on now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what this podcast is for, honestly. This is the conversation that needs to happen, because there's been so many people who have reached out and been like, I don't know what to do next. But I also know that there are other people who they've never opened up a bank account before. They've never written a check before. They don't need, like you said, taxes, like the things that we probably need to have a class at some of these, like at some point this will be taken on the road to be able to advocate for that and do that, of like, listen, you're going to get paid a lot of money, whether you go to the pros or you go overseas or whatever it is. You're going to get this big lump sum of money that is not going to equate to the amount that you are receiving here in college. This stipend check is nothing, but you have to realize what this is. Like, you also have to pay taxes. You also need to, before you even do that, let's also set up a bank account so you can put the money in and stop going to the currency exchange and blowing half your check. Like, you don't know how many stories I've heard of like, my first NFL check, I went to the currency exchange. You went where? Like, they're going to take 20% off the top. That's more than taxes.
Yep. Dudes don't know, bro. Dudes don't know. But I think that becomes a part of education. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming for us, you know what I'm saying? For us is, I was looking at an interview. It was like kind of one of those highlight things that come out, on Instagram, and the dude was telling the story, and he was like, "Yeah, at the time, my father was my financial advisor." And then, like, I was like, "Damn," you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's the white dude, it wasn't a black dude. And I was like, "Man, like that says so much," you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times that people come in, they're handicapped, and they don't even know they're handicapped. That's why they end up losing, and then 5 years later in their career, 10 years later when their career is over, they don't really have much of nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's, for us, for kids who are coming out of the 80s, coming out of the 90s, like, in many cases, we're first generation. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that is because of really the very hard cut that came within our community through the crack epidemic. You know what I'm saying? And so there wasn't a lot where we come from in the inner cities, you know what I'm saying, especially our era, there are not many two-parent households. You know what I mean? And if there are two-parent households, a lot of times, they're just working to hold down a job. You know what I mean? So they don't necessarily have the tools necessary to be able to, hey, this is how you take it one level up, because everybody's surviving. So, I think the onus falls upon us to be able to build for the next generation, because in many cases, people like you and I and our peers are, we are trailblazers. You know what I'm saying? And people don't look at it. The person who actually first kind of pointed that out to me was actually Mello. When we were doing, more of that thought process. When we were doing the Black Lives Matter issue, which was, I think, a very powerful project that I'm, still very proud of. He was like, I'm like, yo, what are you doing this for? What can we change now? Da, da, da. And his response at the time, I could see his perspective, but I didn't necessarily embrace it. But he's like, yo, everything that we do now is for our kids. You know what I'm saying? It's for Cayenne, it's for, my son and all that fun stuff. Because, we are where we are. But our job and the onus on us is to be able to provide a better opportunity for those that are coming behind so they don't have to do the same thing or run up against the same issues. And, since then I've kind of like sat on it and I agree. And I kind of see, where we're at and changes that we need to make. And, we're almost back to the point in which, folks had to be able to fight for equal opportunity. And now we're fighting not only for equal opportunity, but we're fighting to be able to prepare the next generation to take it one step further.
Yeah. No, that's spot on, man. I love it. I love where the conversation's going. Right now, we about to do what I love to call a 30-second timeout. So really, this is just top of the quick hitter questions before we get to the second half, in which I'm excited to get into. This is just something fun, just kind of get to know you a little bit more. So we'll do this. So a little quick 30-second timeout, real quick. So
let's do it.
First question. All right, what's your breakfast go to?
Nowadays it's oatmeal. Oatmeal. No, it does not change. Yeah,
that's
a little fruit on top. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, all right. What was your pregame routine?
Oh, pregame routine. Man, for sure. I would actually listen. My mom would call and she left a prayer on my voicemail when I was in college, and so I would always, listen to voicemail. I would pray, and that was really the big thing. Like before I go out, I would just listen to that voicemail. I would pray, get my mind right. Listen to a little bit of music and get ready to roll.
Yeah, okay. I love it. There's a little bonus question in there. As you said, a voicemail. Did you have the Nextel chirp, the sidekick, or did you have the Sprint flip phone?
I had the Sprint flip phone.
Okay.
Where you could go and buy your screensavers and they showed up in green and white. So that was, but it was popping back then. The funny thing is I still got the same number. Everything.
Same number, everything. Wow, man, it's funny.
Same number.
Yeah, man, that was a great time, man. Oh, we'll talk about that another time. All right, what's the best game you ever played? We talked about, as you get older, you get a little better. So what was? I need to know the stat line too.
Yeah. No, best game I ever played. Best stat game I ever had. The best game I ever played that meant something. I think that's a good one. Because you had good summer league games and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
I'll probably say my second year in college, I can't remember who we played. But I remember I put up probably like 28, something like that. Probably like 28 and like 15, you know what I mean? And I remember, I was like, oh, okay, it's all coming together.
Yeah. It finally came, hit that pinnacle moment that you needed it to.
Exactly.
All right, who was the toughest player you ever played against? I know you mentioned a couple, but to you, who was the toughest?
The toughest player I ever played against? I was like having this conversation with my homeboy not too long ago. I'm gonna tell you, the guy who had their best game against our team that I've seen, and I was like, man, this guy is really good. Was Eddie Griffin, rest in peace.
Really?
Eddie Griffin was in high school.
Monster.
Eddie Griffin was a problem.
Really?
Oh my God! Oh, he had a triple double, and it wasn't an assist triple double. He had like 12 blocks on it. You know what I'm saying? We beat him. We beat him by like 30. Don't get me wrong, but I remember watching him, and I was like, man, this dude is nice. You know what I'm saying?
Just had it all.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, he had it all. But I mean, obviously, you know what I'm saying? You got Tyson. You know what I'm saying? And he was. You know what I'm saying? He was Tyson a great high school player and a great. Obviously a great pro. But I'll probably say the best player I ever played against, and you could run his back, was Ray Allen, and I blocked his shot. I'm just letting y'all know that.
You gonna call it out, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna let him know. I blocked his shot.
Oh, for sure. I love it. All right, what's one album or artist you can listen to forever?
Oh, only one, huh?
Only one.
I would say Brown Sugar by D'Angelo.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What's the best vacation spot, country that you've ever been to?
South of France. Did the Mediterranean trip. That was phenomenal.
Nice. Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter? Or TikTok?
Yeah, Instagram.
You're like, I'm keeping it
Yeah,
basic. I ain't even gone
yeah.
that far.
I'm keeping Instagram, man. That's it. I ain't got on the TikTok page, so Instagram for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. This is kind of getting into a little bit of the second half with these last three questions. But I'm excited to dive into this. What's more enjoyable to work? Are more enjoyable to work with? Is it athletes or entertainers?
Athletes for sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
As we kind of in the midst of it right now, Genius has a 3-part series. Which part is your favorite? 1, 2, or 3?
Man, I love one, man.
Yeah.
I love one.
It sets the tone so perfectly.
Oh my God. I mean, here's the thing. It's like his mother, you know what I'm saying? Like the gems that she drops, when a giant looks in the mirror and sees nothing like, I mean, that's come on, man.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that hit me. I was like, hold on, rewind that real quick.
Exactly.
Rewind that.
Exactly. She's like the starter. So I love that. Sorry.
Love it. No, you all good. No, we'll tap into that a little bit later on. And then the last question I got is the last book that you've read or you just have always just loved.
I'm gonna be a little bit hype beasty and go with I'll give you The Alchemist.
Super
that's
hype
a little
beast.
hype beastie.
Super hype beast. Yeah.
Super.
But it's a great book though. I'm not mad.
It's a great book. I would also reference people to Who Moved My Cheese. Have you ever read Who Moved My Cheese?
No, but that's on the list now.
It's a very short, like, business read.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's a great one.
Okay.
But yeah, those would be the two. CC Sabathia, I'll plug his book. He just wrote a book, and his biography, which is also phenomenal.
Love it. His documentary was incredible. Just hearing his story and the journey and the road he's been on. Like, CC was a monster, and to know what he was going through during that time, it's like, what?
Oh, dude, it's crazy. His story's insane, and he as good of as he is as a baseball player. He's even a better human. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of those, just like how I named, like, all these other folks, who were like with me in 8th grade in basketball, like becoming a man, you know what I'm saying? And learning how to be in a healthy relationship and learning how to be a father when this thing is new. There ain't no blueprint for this thing. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those folks around me that's like, I call as soon as I found out my wife was pregnant, you know what I'm saying? I was like, hey, what do I do?
What do I do?
You know what do I do? He got 4 kids. I was like, yo, hey, you got,
I need the manual.
You already know. So, he's one of them people who have been like very, very instrumental. He and his wife were like, a brother and sister, probably a big brother and big sister to me, because they've just been like instrumental in a lot of my growth.
I love that, man. I love that. No, appreciate you, man. The quick 30-second time out with Samir. Love it, man. So let's tap back into, man. This is the part that we all excited for to understand a little bit about what the second half is. So you kind of mentioned, earlier in the conversation, you had two black men who were willing to take a chance on you, walk you through the resume process to put you in position to work at Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
That's where the next phase for you. Did you set a plan at all, or was that something that you just kind of fell into that, just kind of out of college type of experience for you?
It definitely wasn't a plan. Like I'm not a numbers guy. You know what I'm saying? My folks were like entrepreneurs.
Okay.
I mean, they were business owners, but that wasn't an official business. Like, my dad was hustling, you know what I'm saying? Doing what he did as a trade.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so for me, I didn't necessarily see a lot of like nobody like moving up the corporate ladder. You know what I'm saying? I never seen a tax return, or like I said, I've never written a check.
Right.
And I definitely wasn't a numbers dude. You know what I mean? So like the bank, you kind of think of finance, you think of, well, actually, I really didn't know what to think. I thought, kind of stale, boring place is probably what I thought.
Yeah.
But like, for me, so this is how I actually went there. It was a dude who actually went to my church,
mm-hmm.
and he worked at the bank. And I remember he had a car, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a fancy car, but he had a car. And I remember him like, yeah, I make $40,000 a year. I'm like, $40,000 a year? Like, gee,
Right.
you rich.
You're rich.
Yeah, you're rich. Yeah. So, you know, they all worked in like the call center. I was like, no, I'm not going to work in the call center. However, you know, like, yo, you know, if you're interested, you know what I'm saying, I'll set you up to be a teller, you know what I'm saying, or a teller interview and stuff. Like, yeah, for sure. And I was like, found out they made $10 an hour and you can get bonuses. I was like, yo, sign me up, homie. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I could figure out the rest of it. And that ends up kind of being like the difficult part is going, oh, let me take this up. But like, that was like the crazy part. Cause I was like, you know, it was at that moment that I learned and had to learn, like, if you're going to be able to take on something new, something, you know, challenging, you know, you're just going to have to immerse yourself in learning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing that you can't do as long as you're willing to learn, work hard, and give it your all. You know what I'm saying? And I think that professionally was the first time that I realized that. And then I also realized that I can excel at something that I didn't know I had any idea of whatsoever. So, you know, that's how I actually ended up at Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And then the opportunity to continue to, you know, that's kind of like when my athletic like competition, everything was measurable. You know what I'm saying? So that's when my competitive gene just kicked in. I'm like, okay, if I do this, then I'll get this, which will then lead to that. And then there's a plan for me to get more money and a bigger job. And so like, I just kind of like fully immersed myself in that. And that's how I learned.
Yeah.
I didn't know none of that stuff before. Right. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like, you know, I had no idea what any of these things were. And that, you know, I was just a blank slate and I was able to just kind of go and grow where I was planted and, you know, learn how to tie a tie. I remember the day before, I spent like, you know, probably like 2 hours trying to tie a tie. And then every day I would wake up like an hour before I had to go in to try to figure out how to tie my tie.
Wow.
And then, you know what I'm saying? It went from an hour to like, you know, 30 minutes to, you know, 15 minutes to like, okay, I'm so tight in the car.
Yeah.
But it was like little small things like that I had to learn if I wanted to be successful.
Yeah.
And you know, that, and it just kind of, you know, it was a blessing. It was the path that I was on and I was able to learn a lot and, you know, accomplish a lot of things in that role.
Yeah, no, it's something there. It's like accomplishing those small wins. But even, you know, that's extremely important as you're on your journey. But then two is like you're willing to take a step out on faith and take a chance in something you never had been in. You know, you were literally putting yourself in the middle of a cornfield and trying to figure out your way out, you know? And that's something that people have to be willing to do along their journey because you learn so much about the job, but then more importantly about yourself. You know? And I think that
1,000%.
Yeah, man.
But like, and that becomes like the struggle. You know what I'm saying? Because it's intimidating to have to learn something. You know what I'm saying? And when you talk about like former athletes, you know, the expectations that, you know, you're balling, the expectation is that, you know, you're going to have to fall into something that, and also like the reality of it is, you know, like we touched on earlier, the majority of people don't know. You know what I'm saying? The majority of folks don't know what to do. They don't know what it looks like.
Yep.
You know, a lot of things have been catered to them and a lot of things have been given to them. And then they're like, okay, well, you know, and here's the thing also, kudos to guys like Dennis Dixon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I remember Dennis used to pull up in that Bentley on 24s in the campus. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And sit behind a desk and took an entry level role. You know what I'm saying? To be able to, you know, to be able to learn. You know what I'm saying?
You legit go from Super Bowl champion to, hey, I'm willing to humble myself and sit behind this desk and learn from ground level up.
Yeah, and not be, you know what I'm saying? In some cases, you know, not have to respect that and not have the same opportunities that you probably should have. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. You know what I mean? I mean, we was all there. We know how that place moves.
Yep.
But you know, I think that kind of becomes a difference maker between people who want to, you know, grow and people who, you know, who kind of become stuck. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see a lot of dudes that fall back and you know, either silly things or doing nothing because, you know, there's an inability to learn, or even an inability to not even know where to start.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people don't know where to start.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you were there in that role. How long were you there at Wells Fargo?
I was there for 8 years.
Okay.
8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then 8 years came to a close. Then what was next for you? Was it just like, hey, it's just run its course? I'm just tired. Were you like out looking, searching? Were you on, in the newspaper or anything like that, doing some research on other jobs or anything like that? Or how did the next move come?
Yeah, you know what's funny is that like I didn't even know how that stuff worked. I do know that I didn't want to be like a career banking person. Like I didn't, there were people there who were there for like 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Loved it. Like I mean, paid decent. You know what I'm saying? Decent benefits. But then I also knew that more than anything, I always looked at it as like on the job training.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, grow where you're planning is kind of one of the bigger things that I really sit in on, because I think that every experience you can learn from and be able to take and apply it to, what comes next. And who knows what comes next.
Yep.
So, for me, I was literally like, yo, I had succeeded at every level that I've been on. And then it got to a point where it's like, hey, do I want to get promoted to another level? And it just was no longer fun. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that I had learned at that point everything that I could learn, and that was just, I was done training on the job. You know what I'm saying? And so I never really looked for anything. And the funny thing is that, just kind of like even sitting talking about relationships, I was able to meet some of the guys from Nike basketball, and I was like, yo, I remember from high school, we had a rep, and I used to always say, when I'm done getting paid playing basketball, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be a rep. Like that was my dream.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it was during that time, my man was playing in New York, and I was able to run into some of the Nike basketball guys. I was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? I want to, do you guys hire externally? Like that was my question. Do you guys hire externally? Mm-hmm. I want to be a rep. It's like, yo, we do. We don't have anything. They go, yo, we don't have anything but Jordan basketball. But you'll have to move to New York. And so I never left LA, like not to live. But my man was playing in New York, and went through the process. It was like a 6-month process.
Yep.
And, that literally I had enough of my other job. I was going in. I took a week off because I was like, yo, kind of had enough of this. And I was literally going in to quit. I didn't know what I was going to do. And when I was about to go up to be able to go to quit, I finally got a call from the HR person at Nike. She was like, hey, you got a minute to go. So I got a minute to chat. And like right when I was going up to quit, she called me and said, hey, we would like to offer you the job.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I still went to quit.
Of course, it was a nice little transition of like, I can quit with like some reason and like a little confidence. Like, listen, I'm gone. I'm going to work over here. So
exactly. So that's kind of how that kind of came to life.
Nice. And so obviously that's definitely a sought after opportunity there. Tell me a little bit about like what that role kind of encompasses. Like, what's that kind of day to day? When we talk about, athlete, services, representation, what does that look like? Whether it's this company or the 1,000 other ones that have now started to add that role under their like ecosystem,
Yeah, I mean, like, no, the thing about like relationships and relationship management is no 2 days are the same. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that was actually pretty fun because it went from being in a bank where it was super like regimented. You open up at 9, you close at 6, you take a 1-hour lunch. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You have these meetings, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's just sucks. But it was a part of my journey.
Yep.
But for actually switching, it was kind of a bit of a transition and a challenge for me because I was used to everything being measurable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You hoop, everything is measurable. Wins, losses, statistics, things of that nature. You went, you go to the bank, and everything is also, everything is super measurable. You know what I mean? It's all really the sales numbers, you know what I'm saying? Sales objectives and things of that nature. And so for me, it was actually a really hard transition. One, because of, my own confidence and like, yo, can I do this?
Yep.
And then 2, it's like, yo, how do you measure success? You know what I'm saying? But to answer your question, no 2 days were alike. You know what I mean? But that ended up becoming the beauty of it and the fun part about it, because you were able to interact with so many different people. Right? One day I was at a game literally every night.
Yep.
But one day I'll be talking to somebody's agent, and then the next day I'll be talking to our footwear team. The next day I'll be talking to our marketing team. The next day I'll be talking to our territory team. You know what I'm saying? And then being able to kind of figure out like how all these things work. You know what I'm saying? Another day I'll be talking to sales or whatever, what have you. You know what I mean? And so, being able to do that really opened me up to a different world, but it also, more importantly, allowed me to really soften and hone in my soft skills. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And become a much better, more effective interpersonal communicator, which, I take a lot of those skill sets and those talents with me even to this day.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. I think something even you said, like, you were able to take some of the learnings you had at each kind of stage of your life to even pull it into the career that you had there, representing athletes, and to have those relationships, even exceed even beyond that time. It's like, that's the importance there. It's like keeping those relationships, knowing how to manage them, and then continuing to build upon those as well, while using the skill sets that you just learned from the previous role, even though you hated that role, but you were able to kind of apply it to this in a space of like, okay, this is how I can measure. This is how I work with different teams. This is how I work with different athletes, agents, so forth and so on in that space. So, no, that's incredible. I think that is one of the most sought after roles because of the people you can kind of interact with.
Yeah.
Sure. And for you, sure. Right, you started off over with Larry Miller, who, incredible person, like, but literally leading Jordan Brand. Like, for me, I mean, in our era of basketball, it was nothing but Jordan. Like, that was it. You know what I mean? And then so forth down the road, then it became, Kobe and Bron and everybody else. But to then say, okay, now I can be on the other side of basketball in a space that Jordan kind of created this business lane in, and now I'm also a part of that. That's super dope. That's super dope. So that time, how long did you stay in that role there?
6 years.
Okay, so you were 6 there.
Years. It
okay,
was fun. I had a ball. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. More ups and downs. Great relationships.
Yeah,
and it was fun.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then, so obviously, hence the reason the question of athletes into kind of the space of entertainment. Like, so you left that role there, and then you ended up. What was that next space for you?
Man, I floated. Man, I just kind of floated. I was like, yo, I had a lot of things I wanted to try.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I wanted to work and, to see, hey, what does it look like to build a brand? So, I made some t-shirts that actually did pretty good. I worked at a startup, man. And, I worked with a few athletes, you know what I'm saying? It was literally like, yo, what do I want to do?
Yep.
Because even at that time, I was like, yo, do I want to be an agent? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What's my next step? Do I want to be a manager? Do I want to work at a startup? Like, what do I want to do? And what's the path? And so, I had literally zero idea of what I wanted to do. Like, I remember right when I left, like, I was so programmed to like show up to games. I was so programmed. And here's also the thing is like, yo, when you make those transitions, you realize, how important relationships are, and you understand that like the work that you pour into being able to invest in people, like those investments truly return at times like that. You know what I'm saying? And so, for me, I was still showing up to, All-Star Weekend, because that's just what I did.
It's just what you do.
Yeah. I remember showing up to games and stuff like that, because that's just what I did. But I still had no idea, like, yo, what's my journey, beyond this? You know what I'm saying? And so I spent the year just kind of jumping around, and then a buddy of mine was like, hey, the guys that own these guys started a production company. They're the parent company that owns Slam. They bought the distribution rights to a film, Kid from Coney Island, which was one of Cootie Chigue's docs on Stephon Marbury.
Yep.
Like, we have to, they're looking to attach an EP for, a dope, they want to have a great athlete be a part of this project. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of began like that genesis into film. And also my relationship with Slam, what I'm saying? And so, that kind of took me to like this next role. You know, what I mean, Cootie and Chike also are just like, you know, those are great brothers of mine.
Yeah.
Those are also beautiful people. As good as they are filmmakers, it's just like CC. As good as they are filmmakers.
Yep. You know,
they're greater people. You know what I mean?
Cootie definitely gets all the love, especially being right here from the crib in Chicago. So,
you already know. You already
and
know.
what they doing,
yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, both of them.
Yeah, you like Cootie is like Yoda mixed with like the Matrix lady. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And with a lot of Chicago in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you ever talk to Cootie, and Cootie will be able to drop a perspective on you on the most simplest things, whether it's, you know, the birth of a child, or whether it's losing a loved one, or whether it's, you know, overcoming doubt, or whether it's dealing with grief. And in the way that he puts things so simply, it's just like, you know, it gives you, you know, confidence and a different perspective to be able to, you know, tackle whatever you have going. Like, you know, Cootie's a special brother, and you know, Chike is also one of my people. Chike is also family, also beautiful. And like, you know, those guys and their like literally their vision, their belief, and also seeing kind of like their relationship and how loyal they are. Like, they showed me what true loyalty was.
Yeah.
They showed me what true brotherhood was.
Yep.
And they also instilled a belief in me that, you know, from this kind of film place that I'm in right now, and like the trajectory that this is going, that like really showed me that, you know, this is possible and that I could succeed with it. It was because of them. It was because of stuff that they told me years ago.
Yep.
They didn't even know. They was like, kind of like, yo, yeah, by the way, you should do this. You know what I'm saying? And here's why. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can do it. But, you know, it was, but then they also kind of stuck with it. Like, those are some people that I'm like, yo, you know, it's like CC, Cootie and Chike, Tyson, like a couple folks from my church. Like, those are people who have such big points in my life that, like, you know, I definitely thank God that they're there, because, you know, they help to, you know, get me to the place that I'm at. Like, God don't put people in your life for no reason.
For no reason.
You know,
exactly.
Shout out to Cootie and Chike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, take me back a little bit to, you know, kid from Coney Island. Like, obviously, a couple guys bought a company, Slam came in the mix. Hey, we want to figure out what this film can do.
Yeah.
Steph, like, that story, like, was just super dope, and how it just kind of was curated in itself. Like, you see this kid coming from the inner city of Coney Island, but not only made the stop in the NBA, but became this world superstar that nobody was really expecting it to be outside. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't necessarily, until you actually saw the film and saw the impact that he made. Like, it was like a worldwide type of experience. Like, this man was literally the MJ of the, you know, of the East.
Yeah. He got two statues. Man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Two statues. Yeah, man. I mean, that story, I mean, and the way they put it together, I remember when they were working on it, because we were working on some other stuff. They're like, yeah, we got to go to China for this Stephon Marbury thing. And at this point, you know, like, Stephon Marbury wasn't necessarily, like, from a basketball perspective, the relevancy of him was like, no, it just wasn't there.
It wasn't there. Right.
And so I was just like, you know, there was, I don't want to say that there was doubt, but there was just like, all right, you know, you expect them to work on, like, okay, we're doing this for so-and-so. But they're like, no, just wait, this is going to be dope. You know what I'm saying? And so being able to see how they came and really told a story that had never been told. And you didn't realize that it hadn't been told. And you almost forgot how relevant Stephon Marbury was, and how dope he was to the game. Because there was times in terms of point guards, it was like AI, Stephon Marbury. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the street. You know what I'm saying? It was AI and Stephon. You know what I'm saying? And then being able to see him tell that story in the way in which they told it, you're like, yo, man, this, you know, they gave him his flowers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a world. Exactly. And not only was it due, but they were taken away from him. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Now, you know, his story is phenomenal, but, you know, it took, you know, those folks to be able to bring it to life.
Yep.
And just kind of even going back to the journey, and so, like, that was like my first kind of foray in the film. Was like, you know, they were like, you know, we needed to kind of work on this project to be able to build out this piece, and, you know, thankful for, you know, Rich and KD, and specifically Rich has also been a great part of kind of my development as well.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, yo, I love this story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that it needs to be elevated. You know what I mean? The same with KD. He was like, yo, I love this story.
Yeah.
And they, and they jumped on and they did over and above, what they promised, they promised. And so it made this a much bigger, more, it gave the story the attention that it was due. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my piece into that. And then, the guys from Slam, PRC and those guys and Dennis Page at the time, he was like, hey, we would love to see, if you can add value over at Slam. And so, that's all one of those other things. It's like, it's kind of God's plan. And so, ended up taking a job at Slam and still, working on the film stuff. And, we just, it's been up ever since. You know what I'm saying?
Man, exactly. Like you step in out of one space, you step into another one. You're working with some of the relationships that you had from the previous role to kind of overlap into this one. And not only do you step into it the first time and you create something, you also got a statue. And that wasn't like that part is so unique because not many people have the opportunity to start something new and the bar is set at that high of a level. Right.
Yeah.
And you still continue to manage. I mean, that's super inspiring to actually see that and also pull into some of the other people who, around your circle who poured into you and also love the space that you bring. And I think there's something to said. So from that space, I think there was another film that you were able to do with Joey Badass, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So was that still a part of the same kind of the Slam kind of formation and production company in that space, or?
No, it was separate. Separate. So like during this time, and I'm like, I'm kind of figuring out this film space, and I understand like the importance of. I realize not necessarily the importance of, but the value of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Almost as like a currency. You know what I'm saying? And then I start to realize that like on higher levels, the whole world is built on relationships and tying these things together. So either way, I start working in, film and kind of learning the business and all that fun stuff, still learning the business. And, I realized that there's I used to always tell people, I don't know what I do. I don't want to be called a relationship manager. You know what I mean? I think that kind of cheapens you as a black person in the space.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because they kind of pigeonhole you this.
Pigeonhole to that, exactly.
And they don't pay you.
Yep. You're just this person. Exactly.
Exactly. So I always kind of stayed away from that. But then kind of in Hollywood, you realize, in the entertainment space, you realize that this role is called a producer. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I'm a producer. Here we go. Let's go.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
You make things happen.
And so, exactly. And so for me, during this time, I realized, actually, let me back up. So I had a buddy of mine who was actually on my team at Dominguez, on these teams with Tyson. His name's Trayvon Free. And so we're working on a couple other projects, chopping it up. And he would actually give me a lot of game on Hollywood to keep the space for a minute. And so, we're working on the project actually with CC, and then he comes back and he goes, hey, I have a project. It's during the Black Lives Matter movement, so it's very very prominent. It's in the middle of quarantine, and everybody's eyes are focused on what's happening with George Floyd, what's happening with protests, and really how the world is really standing up with African Americans and the unjust treatment that we're getting in the United States. And so, Trayvon, who has a voice, a social following, and obviously some success in the Hollywood space, goes, hey, I've had enough of going out and not saying I had enough, but I think that I can do more than just protest.
Protest.
You know what I'm saying? I have a skill set that I can be able to use to be able to amplify this message of really leveling, not even getting rid of messed up policing. You know what I'm saying? There's a better way to say it, but and so he said, I have this script, I have this package. A package means like all the people that kind of come to bring this thing to life. And he was like, I think that we have something special that I want to get off. The only thing is we don't have any money. You know what I mean? So, for me and my role specifically was that to be able to go and find find the right people to be able to invest in the special project to bring it to life. So, I reached out to Rich once again and Kevin, and they were, they jumped at it and said, "Yo, this is something that we believe in." Equaling out the playing field and being able to help, help communities of color be able to achieve, not only equality but fairness. You know what I'm saying, and stamp that out. I reached out to Mike Conley. And Tim Jordan, and they're like, "Yo, we were having conversations when Mike was in the bubble. You know what I'm saying? He just came back from having a kid, and he was, quarantined in the bubble. He was like, "Yo, I believe in it." You know what I'm saying? He jumped head first. He's like, "Anything that we could do, I love the script. I love what it stands for, and tell this project." Also talked with my friend Jordan Schultz and the Schultz family, and they were, once again, they believed in it. You know what I mean? And they got behind it. So, talked to also other companies, whether it was Beats, Net, NDPA. A lot of folks really got behind this. The Miami Heat got behind this project to be able to bring it together. And so, that was when I really realized, working with, my folks, whether it was Trayvon, Nick May, Van Lathan, Lawrence Bender, Mickey, Martin, the guys at Dirty Robert, working with all these guys, and I realized that, I can have a real role in this, and kind of realizing, Kudi and Chike's like words and, almost vision, you could say, like, okay, this is kind of how this thing becomes realized. You know what I'm saying? And we went through the process. It was literally the first thing shot outside of the pandemic. And like, we didn't even have distribution. Nobody wanted to buy it. You know what I'm saying? And so, we raised the dollar amount to get it shot. We got it shot. Trayvon was paying for a lot of stuff out of his pocket after a while.
Oh, wow.
And then, we just went through the process, man. We believed in the process. And then, we got to the day, literally, Netflix stepped up and became a huge supporter and picked the thing up for distribution.
Wow.
And definitely shout out to the folks at Netflix for believing in this project and taking that risk, because it was a risky project. It was a great project.
It really was.
It definitely
incredible.
was. You know what I'm saying? And then, we ended up winning an Oscar, man. And from there, it was, it was a moment in time that, if I could freeze it, like, it'll be, I'm happy. That's one of my, top 3 moments. You know what I'm saying? So, it was a great time and opportunity to be able to continue to tell stories that matter, but also realize my potential in this space and continue to learn, grow, connect, and execute. You know what I'm saying? Which has been, really the impetus of, my professional journey. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's been incredible. I mean, to hear that story and know the real authentic needs of when that story came out, but also just understanding the backstory to it, like not having the funding, not having people pick it up, people didn't believe in it, but you had a tight group of people who did and really wanted to see this thing come to fruition, which is awesome. And when it did, it did the numbers that it should have done and exceeded it. I'm sure. I'm sure there's in projects like that, because it's so real and authentic and it's needed during a time. Your goal isn't necessarily to win a statue, right? It's to get the message out there and to make sure that people understand what's reality for a lot of people. And you guys really, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is crazy. Then when I saw on Instagram, I'm like, oh, Samir's on this? Oh, this is dope. Like, it's incredible. It's always great to see your people win and to see what everything else to come along with it has been awesome, man. So obviously this was one of the spaces that you're in. And so currently we in a space that's being, put out there. I look in the credits, I see your name on again, and the Genius series 1, 2, and 3, as we just kind of talked about, man. How did that, obviously I feel like I know just based off of what you said and who is producing this, but how did that kind of evolve into the space you're in? You obviously had great success with, a couple of documentaries before, a couple of films, dabbling into that. love what KD and Rich are doing over there. I think even the one that they did, Something in the Water, which is the whole DC story that they, which I love hearing that one about DC basketball, because they in the conversation with New York, Chicago, LA, and then you got DC that's out there. But we'll come to that later. That's a different conversation. But like, how did that kind of weave yourself into this new space which we're living in right now?
Man, I think that once you kind of realize that, like, you know, you're putting the plays together, and then you understand like what the business is.
Yeah.
But you know, once I kind of spent the time really understanding what this business is, and kind of realized, you know, what the vision was and what was possible. It was at that time that I realized that, you know, I can be able to do this, you know, as a profession. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, it's literally been finding, you know, stories that matter. You know what I'm saying? And telling like the human story across the board, and stories that I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, obviously connecting with talent. You know what I'm saying? And connecting with people who have a POV and who have something to say has been, you know, what I've really focused on, right? So, you know, from doing there, you know, I'm quietly going to be announcing my company pretty soon.
Okay.
DTG Entertainment. We have a few projects coming up.
Nice.
You know, I have some pretty special projects. You know, I have a couple projects with Cootie and Tiki that are coming. You know, the project with Rich and KD that's coming. A couple projects with a very special project with Trayvon and another director, Frank T, that's coming.
Okay.
So, you know, I have a lot of great things that are coming. Some as, you know, individual, you know, producer, and then some as, you know, under, you know, the DPG umbrella. So
nice.
You know, for me, it's really been able to go all in on this piece. You know what I'm saying, and be able to tell elevated stories that matter and that people want to hear. You know what I mean? So it runs the gamut of, you know, doc shorts to long form documentaries, scripted series, also unscripted series. But the connective tissue is literally the human story, and that's what I've been focused on, and I'm working with people to be able to do that. I also have something coming out with we're in the middle of something with CC as well.
Okay.
So, you know, it's coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
2022 is going to be a good year. And,
nice.
2023 is going to be a great year. So, you know, it's all coming to fruition, man. And I'm super grateful for it.
Nice, man. I love it. Just to see what the journey has been, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, and to see that you're still on this journey and growing and still taking that competitive nature and still getting wins. And that's what it's all about there, right?
Got to, man. You got to win.
Got to win, exactly. Yeah. Man, last question. What advice can you share with people about, you know, your journey? If you were to tell your younger self back then about what you know now, what would you share to those listeners that are even thinking about what their first step is?
Dude, I think two things. I think to continue to grow where you're planted. You know what I'm saying? You know, one thing for myself is like, you know, understand the difference between, you know, business and personal.
Yep.
You know, there's also a piece in which I said two things. I'll tell you a couple things.
No, that's all right.
In which, you know, playing the game becomes, you know, a matter of success. You know what I'm saying? And you'll understand what playing the game means when you're in the game, and, you know, you're like, yo, well, why am I not, you know, finding the success I should have? But, you know, being able to understand those dynamics when it comes to the workplace in corporate America and all that fun stuff. And just continue to go, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't let nobody else's success define yours, you know, or don't let nobody else's failure define your dreams and your visions. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has their own vision, and, you know, as long as you immerse yourself and you grow and you're willing to fail and you're willing to learn and you're willing to get back up and keep going and show your face and not let, you know, embarrassment or what have you, you know, stop you from attaining your goal, man. I think the sky will be the limit, and the world will be yours.
Yeah, man.
Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I appreciate the nuggets you dropped, man. Your story, the journey, the learnings, even some things that I learned about you that I honestly did not know. So appreciate you really sharing that from a spiritual standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and, and just kind of the physical space that you're in too now. So really thank you for sharing that story. All those tuning in, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Last thing, I guess, let me ask you, where can we stay in tune with what's next for you? Where can we follow you, like website, any of those things?
Yeah, we still GTG still on Shadow right now. It's on Shadow, but it's going, we gonna pop up. But on Instagram, Samir for GTG. That's it. That's a MIR for the number 4 GTG.
Gotcha.
I don't post a lot. But,
no, for sure. They'll figure it out. That LinkedIn, and of course, when this gets edited and put out there, exactly. We'll make sure we put it all at the bottom so people got access to you for sure, my man. Well, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Love hearing the story. Peace.